seeing all the things that's been going down, I thought about you because I'm like, yo, this is a lot that's happening in
Yeah,
hip hop and especially here in Atlanta
for sure.
as well. Young Scooter passed last week, man. For us in high school, we used to bump Scooter all the time. He
Yep.
was a legend, man. Seeing on your own story how you had just posted covering him all the way back
Yeah.
in 2013, I
Yep.
believe. What were your initial thoughts of hearing about Young Scooter's passing at 39?
It's crazy, man, because it's just like, and just to give you some context on
Mhm.
on Young Scooter, I pretty much got familiar with Young Scooter around 2012, 2013.
Right.
He just dropped Columbia was pretty much the biggest song of that year.
Yeah.
And it was just, man, Columbia just hit, right? And so his team actually reached out to me. They were like, he's coming up. You want to come to the studio to interview him.
Wow.
And so we interviewed him at Gucci Mane's old studio off of Moreland.
Yeah.
I think it was called the Brick Factory. And this is Gucci Mane. This is the pre-Gucci Mane before Gucci Mane
Gucci belly.
went away. It's the Gucci belly. He with the shirt off,
Ice cream.
ice cream
Yeah.
face with the double cups. Like this is that Gucci Mane, right? So Gucci Mane was in there. And so yeah, Gucci Mane. We interviewed Gucci Mane and Scooter
Wow.
at the same time in the studio.
Wow.
And so they were just, he was pretty much just giving me his life story about how he came up. He actually is from a country town in South Carolina, moved to Atlanta when he was 9 years old,
Wow.
moved to the Kirkwood area. Kirkwood on the east side.
Yeah.
That's where Future is from. And he met Future. Like him and Future grew up in the same neighborhood in Kirkwood. And so they became friends and it's kind of like, it's funny that, it's interesting that I always say that Atlanta is kind of like the Silicon Valley of culture, where it's like in some form or fashion, you're going to be doing something around culture, where it's like, whether it's music,
Yeah.
whether it's, being in media, whether it's being producing, the culture, you're going to get involved in some form of fashion. And he was just telling me like, everybody was rapping. Like he wasn't really rapping, but then it was like everybody around him was rapping. So he just started. And of course, Future signed him to Free Bands, and then things just took off from there. But yeah, just to hear the case that of his death and the craziness surrounding it,
Yeah.
where it never really had to happen, was just like, man, what is going on?
Yeah.
So that was really shocking to first hear that Young Scooter had passed at 39 on his birthday, and then the circumstances in which he passes was just ridiculous to me.
Yeah. Circumstances, right? Hearing Beehive's takes, Wicked, shout out to all of them over there, and Wayno. Listening to everybody's take on it about those circumstances, AR, what exactly happened that led to Scooter passing? Because, bro, when I heard, he died from jumping over a fence and just bled to death, I'm like, bro, that don't even sound right. So what were your personal thoughts? And also, what exactly did happen?
Yeah, so when over the weekend, I was actually out of town, and so I'm getting things, bits and pieces of like what was going on.
Right.
And then it was like, first people were saying he got shot. And then people were saying, no, it wasn't a shot, it was an injury.
Yeah.
And so, as a journalist, we gotta really wait till we get the facts, because everybody's saying stuff on social media that may or may not be true. So for me, it was like, all right, let me wait and see the facts. And once I get the facts, and I can go from there in terms of what happened. And so from what I'm hearing is that basically the police knocked on his door, and somebody opened the door, they closed it fast, and then they basically just ran out of the back and just started running.
Wow.
And according to police, to APD, Atlanta Police Department, that he was jumping over several fences, and then he injured himself severely, and then began bleeding. I guess he might have hit an artery or something, and then he just bled out after he was rushed to Grady, and then passed. And then so the initial reports was that there was some type of violence that took place at the home, and that's what police were responding to a 911 call. And so we like, okay, maybe something happened at the house that prompted him to run, some things of that nature. And then later we get the 911 call, and it's like a woman is saying that basically just making it was just a crazy thing in terms of what this woman said happened at this house. She said a woman was getting beaten, a woman was getting dragged out the house, she was bleeding, said a child was with the woman, said that they were dealing drugs at the house, said that 7 dudes that they lived at the house, that they do prostitution at the house, it was shooting at the house. It was a lot of things that was packed into 911 call.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, like all this is happening. So when police did just an investigating, they didn't see any woman.
Mm-hmm.
None of the neighbors said anything was happening. And so it's just like, what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So they found out that this was really, he was swatted.
Wow.
And so basically, someone presented a false report on what they said was occurring at young Scooter's at the residence that young Scooter was at.
Wow. AR, if you can, bro, can you just break down why that is so scary for Black people and especially Black men of falsifying phone calls to the police?
I mean, you never know what's going to happen when, particularly Black people, when you encounter with a police officer. We've seen it go left, multiple times. Not just the stuff that you see with George Floyd or Breonna Taylor on the national level. Yeah. Think about all the stuff that you don't see. Think about all the videos that you haven't seen of Black people getting assaulted or, basically, a police encounter leads in death. So you never know what's going to happen. And so, I mean, I can understand the fear of running because you don't know. You're basically running for your life a lot of times because of what we've seen happen when police encounter individuals, and so particularly Black people. Yeah. And so, you don't know what was going on through young Scooter's mind in terms of what he thought. Why he probably didn't know why they were at his residence at this point. Right. And so, it's a dangerous thing. And then I think the person who made that false 911 call wasn't really thinking it through. It's just like, what are you doing? Like, why would you call? Why would you even, because you got to think about it. Once you say that, so the person, I don't even want to put her name out there, right? But the person who made the false 911 call, she basically went on social media and said why she did it. She said that there was some form of violence that took place. Well, if that violence took place, you should have just called the police at that point and then go from there. Right. But when you say, okay, you're trying to get retribution for something that was done to you, and then you saying that shots was fired, now you gotta understand, when you tell the police that shots are fired, they're trained to say, okay, this is a violent situation. We may have to use deadly force. Yeah. So you're basically setting something up for somebody to die or somebody to be hurt in some form or fashion. Yeah. She said she didn't mean for anybody to get hurt, but when you say shots are fired and you telling the 911 operator that shots are fired, you're basically saying that, okay, you're putting somebody's life in danger at that point.
Right. Wow. AR, from seeing social media's reaction, seeing people on the West Coast talking about Scooter's passing and people up north, I'm like, wow. Because growing up here in the city, I was just thinking it was just very niche. How would you best describe young Scooter's legacy right now in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I think he represents a time in Atlanta where it was just like, there were so many artists coming out at this time where it was Future, you had the Migos, Young Thug. He did a few songs with Thug. He did some songs with Future. So it's just like it was like almost a movement in Atlanta in that era from it was like that 2011 to 2015, 16 era where it was just like a new batch of artists that was coming up post Jeezy, post T.I., post Gucci. And it was like they were kind of taking that trap music sound and scene to another level. Yeah. And so I think he represents that era where it was just like, man, this is a new level for Atlanta, and these are going to be like the new artists that kind of represent in that moment. Yeah. And so I think he's always going to be cemented because he deserves recognition in that space. Like he had he played a prominent role in that era of kind of bridging that gap between from what T.I., Gucci, and Jeezy left off, and kind of taking that mantle and taking it to the next level.